Good evening, my name is Lance Harris, and welcome to Sterling for the first in a series of open forums that the Sterling Democratic Town Committee is hosting with candidates for office on the 2010 ballot. Today, we are joined by Mike Lake. Mike is a candidate for Auditor, and he's come out to Sterling to talk to us a little bit about his campaign. Mike, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Lance. Great to be here.
Mike, why don't you start off by telling us, why do you want to be the auditor?
Sure. I'm running for state auditor because I believe the auditor's office, more so than any other office in the state of Massachusetts, can do more to change how we spend money in this state, moreover, how we save your tax dollars. I believe that, as we've heard from economists, it's a real threat how we're making decisions today, because they're projecting by 2027, that's when a child born today is about to graduate high school, about 90% of the state budget will be spent on pension, health care, and debt service. At least 10% for everything else, and that's an unsustainable model. So we have to act now. We have to make a difference now in how we spend money, and there are opportunities to save money. So if we start implementing new processes today, we can change that long-term outcome.
If 90% of the state budget, though, are going to be going toward those three things, how much of that do you think the auditor can save? I mean, realistically, are you looking to bring that down to 80% or 70, or what is the difference you can make in that?
Sure. Well, I'll just give one example, and this is just one of many examples that the auditor can make. But I want to introduce a statewide energy audit program, and that's a program that will, at no or virtually no expense to taxpayers, and I say virtually because there is staff time involved in this, but at virtually no expense to taxpayers, we can implement a program that audits all of our state-owned buildings for energy inefficiencies. The Commonwealth spends $750 million a year in energy. Now, just recently, the Channel 7 did a report on Boston Public Schools as one example, and they went around at night with thermal cameras, and they showed all the heat escaping from the school buildings. And they projected it's about 25% of the energy bill that is wasted. That's a huge percentage. And for the case of Boston, that's $200,000 a month, or almost $2.5 million a year. Now, I know I can certainly think of better ways to spend that money, particularly in the school district. But you can, if you apply that same percentage, and I'm not suggesting that it's that easy, but just for point of reference, 25% of $750 million is a good chunk of cash that we can be better spending in this state to relieve at least the debt service that we're building. And as everybody unfortunately knows, the Department of Transportation, is one example, is funding its current operating expenditures with a bond issue. So we're assuming debt today to pay for today's activities, and then we continue to pay for that for 30 years. So it's an opportunity to make differences like that, and that's just one example.
Talking about the energy audit again, let's say that you go through the audit and you find areas where school buildings, school committees can save because they have inefficient buildings. In order to make those changes, though, money needs to be available immediately to upgrade facilities. How would you propose that money be available so we can save money later?
Great question. I use the example of Miami-Dade County, Florida. They did an energy audit of their school district. And it's after that program that, at least in part, I'm modeling my own vision for this program. And what they did was they entered into an agreement with an energy service company. The energy service company, or commonly referred to as an ESCO, came in and performed the energy audits of the school district and all those buildings. And in that case, they identified that with a $9.5 million investment in capital improvements, that the school district could save as much as $1 million a year. So they entered into a performance agreement. And the performance agreement said the energy service company can put forth that money, that $9.5 million, to make the improvements. And they'll be paid back over time based on the performance of those improvements. So if we in fact realize, or in Miami-Dade County, Florida, realize $1 million savings, then that money went back to pay off the $9.5 million. What happened in actuality? They started realizing $1.2 million in savings. So it came in with even more savings than was expected. And once the $9.5 million is paid off, they carry that $1.2 million savings going onward. And essentially, to oversimplify it, you're essentially using the exact same tax dollar. You're taking it out of the energy waste bucket and you're moving it into a capital improvement bucket. But it's the same tax dollar, so you don't actually require any additional funds.
When you're the auditor, maybe you can help explain your philosophy of being the auditor. And what I mean is this. Do you believe that the auditor should be someone who is proactively and aggressively going out and looking for waste, or do you think that the auditor's position should be one where the governor's office or the legislature or someone is referring an issue to you?
All of the above and more. I believe on the reactive side, where it's the governor's office, the legislature, and I would add a very important part. I talk about moving the office into the 21st century to utilize modern technologies that not only includes energy audits, but giving the public, voters, an opportunity to voice their opinions and their thoughts in the audit process. I think there's no better group of people to turn to help us identify inefficiencies in government than those who are most frustrated by them to begin with. So I think that's an important perspective that we can do more to include. So all of those three are reactive, and I think that to the extent that we can turn our citizens, our legislators, the governor, whomever, into deputized watchdogs over state government, it certainly strengthens the ability of the auditor's office to make our government as streamlined, as open, as transparent, and as efficient as possible. But one of the big reasons why I'm running is because I have a vision for the office that is far more proactive. I think that the nature of a financial audit is reactive. It's a reactive model. You have to wait till the money's spent and recorded before you can take a look at the books. And that's fine. But I also believe there's incredible opportunities within performance auditing. And traditionally, they have been done together at the same time, and it's mandated by state constitution that every state agency is audited every 2 years. So the problem we have is that after a 2-year period and then the audit period on top of that, we turn around and we point to what has happened, and we tell our public managers what they've been doing wrong, how much it's cost the Commonwealth in the process, and then we provide a list of recommendations and tell them how they could have done the job better. And I think that adding those recommendations is a step in the right direction. But let's not forget the fact that we're dealing with people. And just by implementing those recommendations, it's almost an admission of guilt. Yeah, you're right. I was doing things wrong and I was wasting taxpayer dollars. Well, because the auditor's office does not have any enforcement authority, it makes it very difficult to see those recommendations through. So I believe that if we separate the performance auditing from the financial auditing, that today we can enter into partnerships with our public managers, with state agencies now, so that together we identify inefficiencies in government. And it's a very different dynamic. You've eliminated the adversarial role of an auditor, and everybody knows that role, whether it's the IRS doing an audit on you or the state auditor looking at the books of a state agency. It's not a welcomed role. But by taking it out and working in partnership, we can change that dynamic. And as I said, together identify the inefficiencies within agencies, allowing those public managers to do more and to achieve greater success than they otherwise would.